consider our session called to order. We will have invocation by Chris Moles, the post chaplain of Table Rock VFW Post 5362, followed by Pledge of Allegiance by Table Rock VFW Post 5362. Would you stand, please?
Good evening. Comrades, uncover. Almighty God, we thank you for bringing us together this day. Inspire us to worthy deeds and sound decisions, and direct us toward the attainment of our goals. We pray that you would bless and protect all of our people, guide us on the path to unity and harmony, that we may serve you and your people in keeping with your holy will. Amen.
Amen.
Before we say the Pledge of Allegiance, I would like to remind you, ladies and gentlemen, that not only to do it on a regular basis, but why we do it. Americanism is an unfailing love of country, loyalty to its institutions and ideals, eagerness to defend it against all enemies, undivided allegiance to the flag, and a desire to secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and posterity.
States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The chair will take the liberty to, before we go to item number 4, we have a special person with us today, and we'd like to recognize him. Would like for you to meet Robert Boyer. He is a news reporter from News Herald. Comes to us from Goldsboro. How about a good warm welcome for our reporter? Item number 4 on the agenda is approval of minutes meetings. You have 5 of them there before you. 18th, July 2nd, 2 meetings, July 23rd and August 5th. I think we can all take them unless there is a correction. We can vote for all of them at one time.
Mr. Chairman, a motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion. Any question, comment? All those in agreement, raise your right hand. 5-0, Madam Clerk. Item number 5 is approval of agenda. Any
Again,
change?
Mr. Chairman, motion to approve.
Okay, thank you, Wayne. All those in favor, raise your right hand. 5-0, Madam Clerk. Presentations, we have none scheduled. Item number 7 is scheduled public hearings, and we will hear from Paul Imes and Matt Burge.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I'm not sure if everyone was at the last meeting, but before we get started, I'd like to introduce Matt Burge. He's Vice President at Stevens Incorporated, who is helping us in our refinancing, not only the one we're having a public hearing on, but the ones later in the agenda meeting. So Matt will correct me if I'm, make mistakes on these items and provide any kind of detailed financial information you'd like to know. At the last, the meeting on August 6th, the board adopted a resolution to allow the county to proceed with refinancing its installment financing obligations that we have outstanding. There are 3 of them. One is for the Agricultural Center, the renovations to the building we're currently in, and the purchase of some equipment. The second financing is the construction of the Emergency Services Training Center at Western Piedmont Community College, and the third one that we're looking to refinance is the debt on the Foothills Higher Education Center. So part of that process, and you did this in your resolution last week, is that you have to hold a public hearing on the proposed refinancing. So once you hold the public hearing, then there's a resolution that's included in your material that I would ask you to adopt. And so I guess unless there's some specific questions, I guess to get the public hearing portion of the meeting out of the way, I would like for, or I would request that the public hearing be opened.
Okay. We will now open this agenda item for public hearing. We have anyone who want to make a comment about this item of refinancing? Well, Paul was hoping somebody would step up and say, we'll give it to you at zero. Nobody's doing that.
Well, we didn't find anybody that's willing to do that. I'm sorry to say.
If no one is speaking to this issue, we will close the public hearing session, and we'll look to our board members for questions or discussion. Any board member have a question? Paul, just as a short review, can you kind of summarize how many millions we're refinancing and how much over the long haul we'll be saving?
Okay. Yeah, and I will probably ask Matt to get into the specifics. We were actually, we bid out the refinancing on these 3 installment issues, and he has the recap of the bidders and what the bids were. And I'll just briefly, without having to read the resolution, and I'll be glad to do that if the board wishes me to, but it's rather lengthy. And so the resolution that you've got before you basically authorizes a new installment financing contract to replace the 3 that's out there right now. And I think the key point to remember is the new financing contract and the deed of trust and other documents that accompany that obligates the Foothills Higher Ed Center as the collateral for the new debt. Currently, it's already the collateral on one of the 3 debts, so we're not incurring any additional collateral obligation in any regard, and we're actually would be freeing up the collateral on the other 2 issues that we have. So the county saves from the standpoint of we're freeing up the collateral as well as we're saving money on the lower interest rate. So you've held the public hearing as required, and we have filed the application with LGC because they have to approve, the financing in order to for the county to move forward. And I guess the other thing that the resolution does is it authorizes the chairman of the board, the county manager, myself, and clerk to take whatever actions are necessary to complete the financing transaction. So with that sort of brief overview, I'll ask Matt to tell you a little bit about how the bids on the financing went.
Thank you, Paul. And so last time that we got together 2 weeks ago, we had already sent out the bid request to 13 financial institutions that had done business in North Carolina for municipalities or in the Southeast that we believe would comply with the requirements we were requesting. For the installment purchase financing that Paul just spoke of, we received 2 bids back on those. One was from Bank of America and one was from Capital One Bank. Bank of America's interest rate offer was significantly lower. Their offer is at a 2.15%. What that means in terms of refinancing the 3 installment financing contracts that currently exist is we expect that the county would save approximately $292,000 over the next 12 years. And that's a net present value benefit of 4.3%. I think I mentioned a couple weeks ago that the Local Government Commission and the Government Finance Officers Association recommends a net present value savings percentage on refinancings of greater than 3%. So we achieved that. And we're looking at average annual savings in terms of just this installment financing agreement of approximately $26,000.
Okay. Any,
Mr. Chairman, the resolution that you have references the installment financing contract with Bank of America, so that is included in the resolution.
okay. Any other question or comment from commissioners? Hearing none, the chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to adopt resolution number 2013-36 titled, "A Resolution of the Board of Commissioners of the County of Burke, North Carolina, approving an installment financing contract and a deed of trust with respect thereto and delivery thereof and providing for certain other related matters."
Thank you, Johnny. All those in favor of this motion, please raise your right hand. 5-0, Madam Clerk. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 8 is informal public comments. Madam Clerk, did we have anybody sign up?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we have a Larry Thurston.
Okay. Larry? Yep, yeah.
My name is Larry Thurston. I live out in Burke County in the country. Proud to be a country boy. The reason why I'm here today, first of all, I want to say this. I appreciate Tyler Johnson, your colleague up at the News Herald. Yeah, I'm seeing some, apparently some fair and balanced reporting for a change up there. All right, gentlemen, I have a major concern here. This is concerning the erection of the historical monument up here on the old courthouse. It's totally contradictory to a pledge of allegiance to the American flag. And I think some of you folks know what I'm talking about, because I already discussed this with the chairman, Maynard Taylor, and Mr. Wayne Abley. Now, I have no problem. I'm being a veteran myself, like Jack over here. I applaud and I compliment, and I'm behind anybody out there that supports historical monuments and charters of freedom out there. I'm glad to see that to be. But what I'm concerned about is there's a contradiction here between the city of Morganton pushing this thing and you folks going along with the city of Morganton. And then the city of Morganton can't even have a pledge of allegiance to the American flag all these years. For many, many years we're talking about. Now, I feel like you folks here at the County Commission Board should have had somebody checking into this thing, doing their homework before y'all voted on this, and had a public hearing where the people could find out what's going on, too. That's my major concern today, gentlemen. That's it. Now, I don't know what y'all going to do about this. It's too late. Y'all have already voted on this thing now. I'm just saying, before y'all vote on anything, you need to start checking things out. And my impression of Mayor Cohen up there, he wants to be the kingfish of Burke County as well as the kingfish of the city of Morganton up here. And I just been noticing over the years, going all the way back to '07, when y'all released that old courthouse over the city, you didn't have a referendum. There should have been a countywide referendum on that anyway, because that old historical monument belongs to the people of Burke County. It doesn't belong to politicians and bureaucrats. I can't emphasize that enough. Right's right and wrong's wrong. And when it comes to playing around with something like that, that gets my dandruff up. Another thing I want to say today, you fellows are supposed to be or in the Republican Party, historically, the Republican Party is supposed to be for less taxes and limited government. Why in the world you want to raise taxes?
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Thurston.
Thank you.
That's all we have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Next item is consent agenda. There's 9 items on that. And we'll recognize our county manager, Brian Steen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. You have 9 items on your consent agenda. First is acceptance of grant process report submitted by Western Piedmont Council of Government. Second is removal from the Nursing Home Community Advisory Committee and Adult Care Home Community Advisory Committee. The third is adoption of record retention and disposition schedules for counties and municipalities for tax administration and county management. Item 4 is from the Finance Department, request to surplus county property. Item 5 is from JCPC, appointment of member to the JCPC. Item 6 is the Sheriff's Office awarding firearm and badge to Lieutenant Herman Lefevers upon his retirement. Item 7 is Tax Office EMS Collections Report for June 2013. Item 8 is Tax Office Release from Refund Report for June 2013. And item 9 is Tax Office Settlement Report and Order to Collect Taxes for 2013.
Thank you, Brian. Question or comment about either one of those items? Hearing none, the chair will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Wayne. All those in favor, raise your right hand. 5-0, Madam Clerk. Items for decisions, we have 2. First one is finance, and again, we'll recognize Paul Imes.
I'm taking the liberty, since I've got the next item also, to come back over here with the microphone. The item that you have before you is, I guess, somewhat a house cleaning item, if you want to look at it that way. After the budget ordinance was adopted, it was discovered that in the section that deals with personnel, there were 3 items related to the 911 positions that had been either reported incorrectly or omitted. The position that had been omitted altogether was for a 911 technologist / radio systems engineer. That position should have been listed in the numerous positions that we were establishing for 911 Communications Center, but it was overlooked and it was accidentally left out. It should have been placed on the pay and classification plan at a grade 24 and listed in the list of new positions authorized and approved for fiscal year 13-14. There were 2 other positions, a 911 operations manager that was inadvertently listed as a grade 25 and should have been listed as a grade 26, and a 911 training and quality assurance manager should have also been a grade 26, but instead it was listed as a grade 24. So we're looking to make, I guess, what you could consider technical corrections to the budget ordinance and get those positions and grades recorded appropriately.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Question or comment of Paul? If no questions, the chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Hold just a second.
just want to clarify that this does not alter the budget for 911. It's just a technical correction to the pay grade, not any amounts of money. There's no change in the money.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I move to amend the fiscal year 13-14 budget ordinance number 2013-09, adopted June 18, 2013, to add the 911 technologist radio system engineer as an approved position for the fiscal year 13-14 and place it on the pay and classification plan at a grade 24. Secondly, adjust the grade of the 911 operations manager to a grade 26. And thirdly, adjust the 911 training and quality assurance manager to a grade 26.
Thank you, Jeff. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Madam Clerk, 5-0. Item number 2, debt refinancing for general obligation bonds and certificates of participation. And again, we recognize Paul Imes and Matt Burridge.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, it's a little bit unusual, I guess, because typically when you do a refinance and you're dealing with a single debt issue, and you're just have one set of documents and one set of resolutions to deal with. But in our case, since we're doing refinancings on installment financing contracts that we've had in the past, general obligation bonds, and the certificates of participation on the 2 new high schools, then we have a lot more documents, and probably as a county attorney would attest with all the paper he's been using to print out the versions for his review. It can get a little cumbersome, and so it's not your typical simple, straightforward debt refinancing, which is also one of the reasons that we've used Stevens and Company to help us through all these different scenarios. We dealt earlier in the meeting with installment financing contract issues, and we've passed that. Now we've moved to the general obligation debt and the certificates of participation. The first item, and you'll see in your material, there's 3 resolutions related to the general obligation water bonds. The county currently has 3 water bond issues. We issued a series in 1996, 2000, and 2003. So right now, what we're looking at is to issue a refunding bond that will simply replace the 3 current issues we have, and the documents you have in front of you stipulate that we are looking to, or the board is asked to issue a new bond in an amount not to exceed $3,750,000. And the first resolution, and I'll just briefly, again, if anyone wants me to read the resolutions, I will. But if not, I'm just sort of going to hit some high spots in the 3 documents that you've got. The first one on the statement of facts resolution, it basically states that we have this debt outstanding, and that in order to reduce debt service cost, then we're looking at issuing a new series of bonds, and that some basics, the county's not in default on any of its debt obligations. It won't require a property tax increase to pay the debt on the new bond, and it retains Parker Poe as bond counsel and Stevens as the structuring agent on the deal. So, and all these documents, just for information, have been drawn up by Parker Poe as bond counsel and submitted to the county attorney for his review and comment. So the first one, again, in the process of doing this, which is set by statute, you're being asked to make certain determinations, and like I said, that's sort of the general highlights of what that does. And once you make those determinations, then you do the second item, which is the bond order. And the bond order simply states that you've determined that it's advisable to refund the current debt, and that we filed an application with the Local Government Commission for their approval. And so you're authorizing the issuance of a new bond in an amount not to exceed $3,750,000, and that an ad valorem tax will be levied to pay the bond's principal and interest, which is no different than what you're doing right now with the current GO bonds. So there's nothing changing there. And that a statement of debt is on file in the clerk's office for public inspection should anybody want to review that. So basically, the bond order, you're just authorizing that a bond order be valid. The third resolution is the actual issuance resolution that says that you've adopted the bond order, and now you want to proceed with actually the issuance of the bond. So you're requesting the LGC sell the bond instead of, like, initially you would put it out on the public market for people to bid on. We did a similar process, and Matt can go over that. And but we're asking the LGC, based on the bids that Matt has received, to actually sell the bond to TD Bank And then it goes into, the fact that you're going to do it under certain terms and conditions, such as it's not going to exceed more than $3,750,000, and it establishes the interest rate, which is 1.92%, and sets the potential payment dates and the form of the actual bond itself, as well as stipulated in these earlier resolutions, it authorizes chairman of the board, county manager, myself, and clerk to take certain actions to complete the transaction. So that's sort of the sequence of the three items that you have here, and I would ask that each of those be adopted individually. So with that, I guess I'm going to turn it over to Matt and let him tell you how the bids were received.
Thank you, Paul. So we went out, as we did before, to those 13 financial institutions looking for bids to refinance the 3 GEO bonds into 1 GEO bond. We received the most interest on all the debt refinancings for this particular issuance. We had bids from 5 different financial institutions, ranging from TD Bank, Bank of America, SunTrust, U.S. Bank, and Capital One. Pardon me. The lowest bid, the aggressive price came from TD Bank at a 1.92% interest rate. That's a fixed interest rate for the life of the debt. We are estimating that the savings based upon that over the life of all the refinancings is $310,000. It's a 10-year obligation, and so that's a little over $31,000 a year in estimated debt service savings through the refinancing.
Okay. Is that it?
Yeah, and I guess if the board would like to, if we want to take the GEOs, any questions on the GEO bonds first, and then we'll get into the certificates of participation next, or just want to go into the COPS one at the same time, whichever the board wants today.
Question or comment?
Mr. Chairman, Paul, what is the balance on the 2 high schools, existing balance?
Okay, and this gets into the next item on the resolutions, but the 2 school issues right now, somewhere.
There's 3 COPs on that one, right?
It's the 2 COPS for the schools at June 30, the balance was $19,115,000, and then the other one was $18,565,000.
And that's what we were supposed to build them for, I guess. If I look back, they were supposed to be built for around $18 million apiece. And we've been paying how many years on them?
They were issued in 06.
Mr. Chairman, can I go ahead and request we move forward with the COPs at the same time so we can get all the discussion out?
Sure.
Okay, the last item, and as we've sort of gotten into, we did 2 issues back in 06 that was primarily to build the 2 high schools. There was a little bit of money in the initial 06, I think it was $3 million if I'm remembering right, that was to renovate auxiliary gyms at the 2 high schools. And then the county had a little bit of money in there for some equipment that we were looking to purchase. And then the second issue that was done in August was actually used that one to build the second high school, which was drawn, and to acquire the Foothills Higher Ed building. I think it was like $2 million included for that. So so we're looking, as like these other deals, to take advantage of a lower interest rate, refinance those 2 issues, and the resolution that you have, similar to all the others, it sets forth certain things, most of which is given the authority to the chairman, county manager, myself, and clerk to take actions necessary to facilitate the transaction. And it also I want to point this out because it could get hidden in this resolution somewhere or another, that it identifies members of a nonprofit corporation, the Burke County Public Facilities Corporation, as the appointment of directors, because in order to facilitate a certificate of participation issue, there has to be a third-party corporation that, and I don't know, Matt could explain this a lot better than I can, but it's just because of the nature of how the financing is, it's not a direct bank, county, item. There's a nonprofit corporation that acts on behalf of the certificate holders. So the item number 6 in the resolution, it appoints the Breinstein, Paul Imes, and Kay Honeycutt as serve as the board of directors of the corporation. So one of the aspects of this refinancing will be that the corporation will meet and also have to approve this deal in addition to the local government commission and the county. So it's a little cumbersome, because that's just the way that those deals are structured. But I just want to point that out just to sort of get it on the record, Madam Clerk. But other than that aspect of it, where it's got multiple entities, it works the same way. We're looking to replace the 2 existing COP issues that we have, the 2006A, 2006B, with a new issue that, based on the bids that Matt received, would be with TD Bank. And I'll let Matt go over the responses he received on the financing for this item.
Thank you, Paul. So first, I'll tell you that for the 2006B COPS refunding, we received offers back from 2 financial institutions, TD Bank and SunTrust. TD Bank had a slightly lower interest rate at a 2.41%. The estimated total savings from TD's offer as of today is $960,000 over the life of the debt. That averages almost $74,000 a year in debt service savings. The 2006A COPS we only received an offer from TD Bank to provide the loan for that. They provided the same interest rate at 2.41%. The estimated total gross savings for that refinancing is just over $1,018,000, and that approximates $78,000 annually in debt service savings. It's worth noting that as contingent on TD Bank's offer, and you'll remember that they were the winning bidder on the GO bonds as well, so they're providing the most aggressive bid on that. They are requiring that the county deposit $2 million with them for 5 years, and those funds can be invested in anything that North Carolina municipality can invest in per state statutes. So no change. They just want that's in order to get that low interest rate, that's part of their requirements. That's something that we've seen from them, and that is commonly done by people that accept their lending terms throughout the state. So that's we were expecting them to have that in their offer. In terms of the COPS, I don't think here if there's anything else. Oh, the COPS also, we are not refunding all of the debt that's outstanding with those original issues. When they were originally issued in the public markets, the first 10 maturities are non-callable, and actually you can't call this debt until April 1st of 2016. So there will still be some old debt that's outstanding that goes up until 2016 on the COPS debt that's originally outstanding. This TD Bank loan offer replaces the debt that's at the longer end.
Matt, that $200,000 that we have to deposit for 5 years,
$2 million.
$2 million.
$2 million. Is there, what interest rate we get for the deposit of the money?
I asked, when they submitted their bid, I asked them just give me an indication of your money market and CD rates. Off the top of my head, their money market rate, I think, was 40 basis points, which I think is probably market rate. I looked at an analysis, and we did one in terms of the benefit that we get from refinancing at their lower interest rate, and what would we have to give up in terms of interest earnings on $2 million for it to be break even, for us to go with another lender. And first off, we only have one offer on the 2006A COPS. So if we didn't give them any money, then we'd be giving up. They do have an offer that we could accept from them at 2.48% interest rate, in which we don't deposit any money with them. We lose $88,000 in gross savings based upon that. Our analysis of how much different do they have to be on their investing rates than the market in order for it to be a break even was a level, and I can't recall off the top of my head. It was more than a percentage point difference. So you would have to be able to go to a local bank and get on a money market type fund over 140 basis points or so. One other item of note is they only require this for 5 years. So they're lending you money for 13 and a half years. After 5 years, if you don't like their service, or you can get better rates or whatever the case may be, you can move that money.
So again, everything considered for all the loans over that period of 13 years, the net savings to Burke County taxpayers would be what?
I had it in terms of the installment purchase, installment financing, which we touched upon earlier, the GO bonds, the 2 COP issues, the total gross savings is over $2.5 million.
$2.5 million.
Sir.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask, just for a clarification, a lot of this debt is school debt, and it's not going to be a realized savings to county government for the payment of that debt. Paul, can you clear up a little bit about how that debt is paid, and it's really a savings to the school system?
Yeah, the largest savings we have is on the 2006A COPS. And because, as Brian indicated, we take money that is restricted to the school, for the schools, and for school capital, debt on school capital, and we transfer that to the county general fund to pay that debt. So there's no county tax dollars that go into some of this debt. On the 2006A COPS, all the savings that will be generated, because the county's piece of that was so small and was for a short term and wasn't for the entire term like the schools, high school's debt was, 100% of the savings will come from the school's money. So out of the $1 million that we're going to save over the life of the refinancing the 2006A COPS, all that $1 million will actually be money saved from the school system's resources, not the county general tax dollar. The 2006B, which was approximately $960,000 in savings over the term, 12.5% of that will be county savings, which is about $120,000, and the remaining part will be schools. So if you want to look at the overall in terms of just how much is the county tax dollar savings, leaving the schools, aside, then you're looking at a total of about $725,000, something in that neighborhood, which is about $67,000 a year. So I don't, and I think we've had this discussion before, I don't want, the board to think that the entire, savings is going to be, general fund tax dollars, because the great majority of it will just save the sales tax money is what it's coming from. Will save the money that we would have to use for school debt anyway, or school capital. So we're conserving those resources and not having to spend those like we would if we didn't do it.
I understand what you're saying, Paul, but I think this board, looking at our taxpayers right now, especially with the tax increase they got this year, I don't see how somehow down the road, that some of those savings could not benefit the taxpayer, because federal government and state didn't build those schools. County tax dollars built those schools. So we ought to be able, I guess it's just going to be a tough year next next budget period, I guess, to see where I guess it'll be up to this board is the final comment. Any
Well,
other question or
yeah,
comment?
They would certainly, I mean, refinancing all this debt, primarily benefits the school, but like you said, it ends up leaving more money available to them for something that they may be forced to come to the county to ask for at some point in time. You just don't know. But obviously, any money that you can save, whether it be the school's money or our money, you want to take advantage of it.
I agree with that. I agree with that 100%.
And the other point I want to just make sure we get in the record is the deposit, the $2 million that TD Bank, wants to have, in their institution. We're still going to get the interest rate that they're offering. So when Matt was talking about the percent, I mean, the only way we would lose, and it's not the case, is if they were to say, well, we're going to make you deposit $2 million, but we're not going to give you any interest on it. We're not going to let you earn anything. But that's not the case. The only thing they're asking is the county, have $2 million, at that institution, but we'll still get the same investment rate as anybody would. So, we're not losing out on the ability to get investment income on that money. And because we haven't done business with TD Bank before, I just want to make sure, and there's a statutory requirement that says we can't put money in a bank that has not been designated as an official depository by the Board of County Commissioners. I just want to make sure we get that point on the record, that by accepting this deal, we are, and I guess it's a legal thing, you sort of imply it, but I just want to make sure we get in the record that the board is identifying and establishing TD Bank as an official depository for the county.
But this is standard practice for a bank to require this on this type of transaction, correct? And the LGC knows that, correct?
That's correct, yeah. It's standard. Not every bank does it, but, there were banks that said, we will bid, but we don't have any business with the county, so we're not going to bid. So, that so-called linking of other business, it's very common.
Okay. Other question or comment?
Paul, is the $2 million deposit, is that for a total $2 million for both the A and B, or $2 million?
No, for everything. Because they've actually got three. It's not just the two cops, but they got three of the deals. So, $2 million. I am correct, Matt.
You are.
Yeah, $2 million covers all the transactions.
They're lending the county approximately $35 million, because they're doing both the cops and then the GOs. So that $2 million covers all that.
Other questions or comment?
And also a point of clarification before I hope you'll get ready to adopt these resolutions is that, as JR probably has seen, some of the language in these documents will need to be cleaned up, and some verbiage changes because you got different sets of attorneys, dealing with them. So just want to make sure that, y'all are agreeable that when we're saying these resolutions that staff is authorized to make, changes and do actions as necessary to carry out these transactions, that also contemplates that we'll make whatever minor technical changes need to be made in any of the documents. So.
Okay. Well, just as for the record, and make sure that we get this in the minutes, that through all this transaction, the bottom line is we're going to save the Burke County citizens $2.5 million by this transaction. And I think that's good news any day. Any other question or comment? Ready to vote? No, we need a motion before we vote.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to make 4 motions, if that's okay with you.
All right.
Motion number A is a motion to adopt resolution number 2013-37 titled, "A Resolution of the Board of Commissioners of County of Burke, North Carolina, making certain statements of fact concerning the proposed bond issue."
Okay, you want to do B?
You want to vote on each one, Paul,
separately.
separately, sir?
Okay. Y'all have heard the motion. Thank you, Johnny. All those in favor of motion A, raise your right hand. 5-0, Madam Clerk.
Motion B, Mr. Chairman, is to adopt the bond order titled Bond Order Authorizing the Issuance of Not to Exceed $3,750,000 General Obligation Refunding Bond of the County of Burke, North Carolina.
You've heard the motion. Any other question? All those in favor of the motion, raise your right hand. 5-0, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Chairman, motion C is to adopt resolution number 2013-38, titled A Resolution of the Board of Commissioners of the County of Burke, North Carolina, providing for the issuance of not to exceed $3,750,000 General Obligation Refunding Bond, Series 2013 of the County of Burke, North Carolina.
Thank you, Johnny. Question or comment? All those in favor, raise your right hand. 5-0, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Chairman, motion D is to adopt resolution number 2013-39, titled Resolution of the County of Burke, North Carolina, approving amendments to installment financing contracts to provide for the refinancing of existing county obligations.
Thanks again, Johnny. All those in favor of the motion D, raise your right hand. 5-0, Madam Clerk.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is reports and comments. And we'll start with our council over here today.
Gentlemen, I have one thing to report to you, and that concerns the Drexel Recreation District election. As you recall, the commissioners adopted a resolution that would offer a district-wide board election for the Drexel Recreation District. Under the terms, the county was to offer that first to the Drexel Athletic Boosters Club, and if they refused or declined, then it would offer it to the Drexel Chargers organization. On July 31st, the county manager received official correspondence from the Drexel Athletic Booster Club declining the county commissioner's invitation to be the sponsoring organization for the district-wide vote for election of officers. Since that time, under the terms of the resolution, I have dealt with the Drexel Chargers organization through the Drexel Town Manager, Sherry Bradshaw, as our go-between. And as of yesterday, August 19th, the Drexel Chargers organization have accepted the invitation to be the alternate sponsoring organization for the district-wide vote for election of officer. So when we have our vote, the persons who are elected to the board and officer positions will become board members and officers of the Drexel Chargers organization rather than the Drexel Athletic Booster Club. The original voting date in the resolution was August 24th from 10 a.m. to 12 noon at the Burke County Higher Education Center. You've placed me in charge of overseeing this vote, and as such, I am proposing that we move the voting date for 2 weeks from August 24th until September 7th, or the first date thereafter when the Higher Education Center is available during those hours, to be able to give publicity to the organization that's now sponsoring the vote and allow nominations to be made from the community. We had an ambitious schedule in the first place, a good schedule, but it was ambitious and depended on getting timely responses from the organizations. Since we're up on the August 24th date, with the board's consent, I would like to go forward with this on the September 7th date rather than on the August 24th date. And that's my report.
Madam Clerk, that becomes a decision and was not on the agenda.
No, I'm not asking for a decision. I'm just saying that's the way we'll do it unless the board has problems with it. And if they do, then I'll certainly, as the person you appointed, I'll certainly abide by the board's wishes.
We can only receive that as a report and cannot make a decision on it at this point.
That's right. Thank you.
Thank you. Brian?
Mr. Chairman, I've got several things, and the parts I've got, the PowerPoint will come a little bit later on, but I wanted to report to the board that I plan to issue an RFQ, that being a request for qualifications, for architect and engineering services for the design of the EMS Station Number 7, which is being proposed to be located at the Morganton Senior Center. As you know, we've got a temporary service there now, and it is working out very well. If we're able to do this, I'm able to get this RFQ out, this will enable the design work to be completed and a firm cost estimate to be established for inclusion in the proposed budget for fiscal year 2014-15. And I'm hoping to structure the project so that construction starts July 1 and the station is ready for use prior to December 31st of 2014. Next, the courthouse HVAC contractor has informed me that he anticipates all disruptive work for this project being completed by October 20th. This allows us to accelerate our plans for relocation of the district attorney's office and staff to the former Register of Deeds office space. Earlier this week, I instructed staff to get underway with steps to bid the work necessary for this project and begin work on design of office space for relocation of probation officers from the courthouse basement to the area that will be vacant in the old tax office, which includes the space currently utilized by the district attorney's staff. Item 3 is consolidated 911 facility. As you know, we recently held a groundbreaking ceremony for the start of construction activities. Facility construction and provision of equipment is being paid for through a state 911 grant of up to approximately $7.3 million. However, the operational costs of the facility, to include personnel salaries, utility costs for such things as electricity, water, sewer, etc., and facility maintenance after completion of construction, is a county responsibility, and these costs have been incorporated into the county budget. Next, I want to talk with you about the convalescent ambulance. Excuse me. That was part of the current budget that we adopted beginning July 1, and I've got some pictures of that ambulance. That service should be starting on September 9th, 2013, and will be a great assistance to us and our EMS staff to meet the needs of the hospital and patients that are going there but need to be transported back to a convalescent center without tying up the emergency 911 ambulances. Here are some different pictures of the ambulance. We converted an existing vehicle for this purpose. It's a non-emergency transport, and it's actually parked outside of our building tonight if anybody wants to take a look inside of it. Staff is in place. We've hired Sean Miller, who is an EMT intermediate. He's been employed for the last 14 years as a dispatcher with Burke County. Sean has established relationships with the nurses and discharge planners over at the different facilities over the past 14 years while taking requests for non-emergency transport calls from Grace and Valdez Hospital. Sean is very familiar with our current EMS staff. The other member of this team is Nikki Taylor. She is an EMT basic. She's been employed the last 7 years as a clerk in the emergency department at Grace Hospital. Nikki has established relationships with the nurses and discharge planners on a professional level at both Grace and Valdez hospitals, and she's familiar with the current EMS staff from ER actions and ambulance ride-along time as a paramedic student. So I'm excited about these. I think we've hired people that have a tremendous background and relationship with the organizations and stakeholders that the convalescent ambulance is here to serve. The next thing I'd like to go to is the Lake James development planning, or Lake James Trail development planning. In the very near future, staff will start looking at a variety of possibilities related to development of trails near Lake James and funding that may be available through the Parks and Recreation Trust, as well as other non-county sources. The proposal may take a year or more to develop, but we want to make the commissioners and the public aware that we're working on this and look forward to an opportunity to involve a variety of staff members as well as other individuals with interest in this proposal at key points in the process so staff can deliver a proposal that is intended to best serve the citizens of Burke County and hopefully result in broad range of economic development opportunities. Now here you've got on a PowerPoint the vision statement to enhance residents' appreciation of Lake James region, beauty, and other natural resources, deepen residents' understanding of Lake James history and culture, promote and offer healthy recreation, transportation, education, and community gathering options for residents of all ages, boost regional economic development opportunities and growth, provide a centerpiece for Burke County economic tourism development efforts. I'm having a time between glasses and regular eyesight, I'm sorry. Build a unique project that brings together a diverse group of citizens for the betterment of Burke County. A trail that ties together walking, hiking, strolling, biking, camping, fishing, swimming, picnicking, ecotourism opportunities, and regional attractions. That's a long sentence. An awesome health-wise amenity for lake area residents and visitors. Next slide. Why now? There are several reasons for the development of the Lake James Trail Loop. A master plan is a good idea. First, the idea of developing a loop trail around the lake has been around for over a decade. Secondly, past efforts from area residents and staff put in place certain items, easement guarantees, FERC funding, a citizens group to help facilitate the development of a loop trail around the lake. Third, the state park expansion is now a reality and is an important component of the loop trail. Fourth, FERC funding in the amount of $1.1 million will be available soon for trail design, engineering, and construction. Fifth, the PARTIF grants in the amount of $500,000 are still available but may be downsized in the future. Last, there has never been a better opportunity to leverage so many resources from private and public entities into a regional economic development effort that is supported by such a diverse group of residents, business owners, land development, developers, environmentalists, and others. Loop Trail Working Group. Burke Community Development will serve as the primary agency for development of a Lake James Loop Trail Master Plan. A working group will be established to oversee and provide input into the development of the plan over a one-year period. The plan will include history, vision, trail design, trail location, trail constraints, trail maintenance, trail user groups, cost estimates, access points, safety, funding, and implementation strategy. And here is a map of that area with the different trails that are there or can be there. And I'm excited about this. I know staff is. Again, we've never had the convergence of the opportunities and the groups and the potential for FERC money as well as PARTIF grant monies to help this. And we are looking forward to getting started. And just wanted to share this with you as well as the citizens of our county to make them aware that we're working on this. So thank you, sir.
Thank you for a good report.
I'm sorry. Got a couple more things besides that. Ribbon cutting for official opening of the Gene H. Huffman Memorial Convenience Center on Roney Road is scheduled for 10 a.m. on September 11th, 2013. Vance Patterson has agreed to conduct a community information presentation related to his desire to provide a monument displaying a replica of the Declaration of Independence U.S. Constitution, and Bill of Rights. The presentation is open to the public and it will take place in the old Burke County Courthouse at 7 p.m. on September 12, 2013. And my last item is to notify you of the development and provision of an informational workshop for employees at the Western Youth Institute. I've recently had contact with a variety of state officials on this matter while I've been working with Scott Darnell at Burke Development Incorporated, BDI, and Dee Blackwell at Western Piedmont Council of Government. We're trying to develop informational workshops to inform the Western Youth Institute employees of local resources that they may find helpful in addition to benefits and employment opportunities that may be available at other Department of Public Safety facilities. We're trying to coordinate our efforts with the state in addition to information and benefit services the state is working on during their transitional process prior to the closing of Western Youth Institute. Scott and Dee will also be working with Western Piedmont Community College and Burke County Chamber of Commerce to more fully develop informational workshop topics and links to a variety of other local resources. I anticipate the workshops to present local resources to be held within the next 45 days at Western Youth Institute if possible.
Thank you very much. Wayne?
After all that, no comment.
You gentlemen, I just have one thing. Y'all elected me to be your voting delegate for the NCACC 106th Annual Business Session. And I did a little form on those voting issues. And if you will vote, I will compile and vote the wishes of the board. I do want to advise you that Johnny Carswell has volunteered to be our district representative for the 13th district. So maybe we could have two, but we only allowed one. So, but anyhow, that's all I have to report. Johnny?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, you and I and the county manager all visited Jeter Hall over on the grounds of NCSD and saw the STEAM Academy last week or week before. And I just wanted to commend the schools on just the progress they've made with that group over there. And I think we all should be very proud of that and look forward to the kids that will be involved in the STEAM program itself. So they've taken on a great task to try to get some of these kids into the science technology field to make future workers here in Burke County. Mr. Manager, again, on behalf of Western Youth Institution, as the word got around this afternoon that you applied a lot of good pressure maybe to the Secretary of the Department of Public Safety, David Geis, who has called and said that the Department of Commerce will be allowed to come in and make some presentations, hopefully along with what we're doing here at the county. And when the state comes in and offers its program, the hope is that we may be able to find jobs for everybody that's at Western Youth Institution right now. A lot of people have already secured other employment in other, there's only one person I know of that has employment outside of Burke County. Broughton Hospital, J. Iverson Riddle Development Center has picked up, the Department of Forestry has picked up people. Several of our young fellows have enrolled in Highway Patrol schools. So right now, as far as by my count, one person is left to go to McDowell County Schools. So hopefully we'll be able to have jobs for all of these people over at the institution. And we thank you for your hard work and what you've done, sir. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Jeff?
No comment, Mr. Chairman.
Jack?
I'm out of breath, I pass.
Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would briefly announce the board's future meeting schedule. September 3rd is the pre-agenda held in this room at 3 p.m. September 17th is the regular meeting at 6 p.m. in this room. September 19th, the board has a joint meeting with the Board of Education at 6 p.m. That meeting will be held at the Human Resource Center, 700 East Parker Road. October 1st is the pre-agenda meeting at 3 p.m. October 15th is the regular meeting at 6 p.m. And county offices will be closed on Monday, September 2nd, in observance of the Labor Day holiday. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 12 is vacancy announcements, and we will again recognize our Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. We currently have the following vacancies on boards and committees. The Hickory Regional Planning Commission, 1 vacancy. The Adult Care Home Community Advisory Committee, 7 vacancies. Nursing Home Community Advisory Committee, 3 vacancies. Council on Aging, 1 vacancy. Juvenile Crime Prevention Council, 2 vacancies. Burke Development Board of Directors, 1 vacancy. Board of Equalization and Review, applications are being accepted for the 2014 board year. There are 5 members and 2 alternates. You can contact Danny Eisenhower, the tax administrator, for more information on that. Region E Development Corporation has 1 vacancy. The Burke County Planning Board has 1 vacancy, and this member would need to reside in the eastern part of the county. And the City of Morganton Board of Adjustment, ETJ area, has 1 vacancy. The applicant would need to reside in the extraterritorial jurisdiction of the City of Morganton. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk, and we would invite each and every one of you that, if you're interested in getting involved, call Kay and fill out one of those forms. We'd love to fill all those positions. We do have need for a closed session to discuss development matters and discuss personnel matters as authorized by NCGS 143-318.11A, 3, 4, and 6. We'll take a 5-minute recess. Could I have a motion to adjourn to closed session?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those like sign. 5-0, Madam Clerk. We have discussed several items in closed meeting, and none of them require action tonight, so Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All those in favor can go home. How's that? Or eat a piece of cake. Thank you.